the multiple bounce roll, or what we generally call it in percussion, the buzz roll. We call it a buzz roll because it sounds like buzz. Hopefully, it will sound like one sound. Now, this is what we use on a lot of drums and cymbals and different percussion instruments to approximate the sound of a sustain. So on a snare drum, you've probably heard that sound before. All right? Very irritating to play on a loud snare drum. So I'm going to use a practice pad. Now, what's important about your choice of practice pad or your choice of drum is to make sure that you have something with a lot of rebound. So this rudiment, remember in the last rudiment we wanted to use something soft so we could work on our double strokes. On this one we need a rebound. So I do not recommend you learn your multiple bounce on a pillow. You're not going to learn it by playing on your stomach or your hands on your legs. You've got to learn it on a surface that has rebound to it. All right, so again, with all of these rudiment videos, I'm going to start at the very beginning for anybody who is just now getting started. And this is your, hopefully, if you're doing it off of the tiers system that I have listed, this is your third rudiment. Now, this should be the rudiment that you learn after you learn your double strokes, not before you perfect the long roll or the double stroke roll. The whole purpose of these rudiments, learn the skill, gradually over time get faster. Don't learn the skill and then work on the single stroke roll until you can play perfectly open, close, open as fast as I do. That's not the point. Point is, get started, get through a couple of those bronze levels, go on to the next. Same thing with the double stroke roll. We learn how to play double strokes. Get through the bronze level, maybe learn how to do a bounce, and then your multiple bounce. All right, so for the very beginners out there, a multiple bounce is when I throw the stick at the head and I use a little bit of pressure in my fulcrum to push the stick into the head. Now, incredibly important is having that back fingers not gripping the stick. So I definitely want some space in here between my fulcrum and my back fingers. As I'm pushing the stick into my head, I have to use a little bit of velocity, speed, and force behind the stick. If I use no velocity and no force, there's no rebound for this stick to bounce. Actually, if the surface is pretty good, you can kind of get away with it. But I want you to use a little bit of velocity and just practice on your right hand first and then your left hand. This is what you need to do for a good amount of time, especially with your left hand. So what you're going to feel is that initial squeeze of the stick to get the stick to bounce. If you have no squeeze, it's just going to pop right back up because that's a rebound stroke. So you have to push the stick into the head and then relax that fulcrum so that the stick continues to bounce. Now I like to use a wrist stroke to start the stick bouncing. Some people like to have your whole arm drop, and that's fine. You can do that as well. If you're using a wrist stroke to start the stick, then that's what we're going to be playing when we start getting much faster, okay? So, first assignment is not to try to play the buzz roll because you'll wind up being really lumpy. We want to be able to play great sounding multiple bounces on each hand separately first. And your left hand. Now, as I'm doing this, I'm watching my stick. I'm trying to get it to play right in the center of the head. and I'm trying to regulate my fulcrum pressure and my velocity and my force so that it stays bouncing. All right? The more that you do this with each hand separately, the more you're going to create those pathways in your brain that's going to tell your motor skills, it's training your muscle motor skills to do the same thing every single time. Now, if you can't do this on each hand perfectly, I should say your left hand as good as your right. If your right hand sounds great and your left hand doesn't, then you need to spend more time working on your left hand. The problem that most students have when they just start learning this is that they squeeze the stick with the back fingers. They either push too hard into the head or there's no space here so the stick doesn't have a way to bounce. Now you can, as a crutch, take all your back fingers off for a second, just to make sure your fingers are not choking the stick, and then gradually wrap those fingers back around. All right? So an exercise I like to do, just 4 and 4 buzzes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Buzz, 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 buzz. Nice relaxed strokes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Buzz, 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 buzz. So you'll see a little bit of arm motion on each one of those buzz strokes. Practice that a bunch of times. When you finally get that down, we want to work on our alternating buzzes. I'm using a lot of velocity so you can hear the beginning of each one of those buzz strokes or multiple bounce strokes. But what you want to do here is as I'm bouncing one stick, you want to leave that stick down because we don't want any gaps in sound between one buzz, one multiple bounce to the next. So we don't want that. We want buzz, 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 each one bleeding from one to the next, no gaps in sound. That might even be slower than what you're going to be able to play that on the bronze level. All right. First, you got to make sure that you nail the skill set of being able to play multiple bounces at a slow tempo on your right and your left hands. Then we'll gradually speed up. So again, exercise you can do 4 and 4 multiple bounces, but now alternating. 1, 2, 3, 4. Buzz, 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 buzz. 1, 2. Buzz, 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 buzz. 1, 2, 3, 4. Buzz, 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 buzz. So as I'm doing my buzz, 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 it all connects together, and I am really playing along with that play along track so that I can make sure that I'm keeping a very steady tempo. It's very, very important that that motion of your hands stays right in tempo, and we're learning our motor skills, our muscle memory, or our memory muscle motor skills that are actually formed in our brain. Is telling us that is right. Do it that way every single time. And if you do it correct a number of times, then you will be able to do it correct from now on. All right, so faster and faster. Remember what I said in the single stroke roll video is that as you increase speed, lower those heights, lessen the velocity or the force into the head. Now, it won't sound like a buzz roll until you get to a certain hand speed, but you have to make sure that you're developing that really quality bounce. All right, so work through those first levels of the bronze level, first 3 or 4, I can't remember how many I did, but first 4. Because what we want to do is we want to even strokes and great sounding buzzes. Once you get to that point, it'll sound pretty good on a drum. It won't sound fantastic until you get to the optimal hand speed to produce a buzz roll. But as you get to that faster speed, I'm not using nearly as much height, velocity, and force. I'm just trying to even out my sound. All right, I start using a little bit more fulcrum pressure. Again, as we talked about with the double stroke roll, as you get faster, you can move that fulcrum back a little bit to where you have a 3-point fulcrum, thumb, first finger, and middle finger. That'll give you a little more strength in your fulcrum. Still relaxing those back couple of fingers off of the stick until you can have a great sounding multiple bounce. All right, this is an incredibly important rudiment, especially for drum set players, especially for concert percussionists, and even on the marching percussion idiom, we play with buzz rolls a lot, and you need to develop a great sounding buzz roll. The whole key to it is starting slow and especially developing that great sounding bounce on your multiple bounce on your weaker hand. So take your time, especially with each hand separately before you move to alternating, before you start speeding up, and you will develop a great sounding multiple bounce or buzz roll.